Somebody suck me!
Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am Ross Bolen, and that was the Houston Texans team we've been waiting to see all season long with a dominant 32-12 wild card win over the San Diego Chargers. Man, did that feel good. And we avoid the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round, which is beautiful, baby. If you would rather play the Ravens than the Kansas City Chiefs in 2025, you need to lay off the sauce because you sound like a damn moron. But let's talk about what happened against the Chargers, and then we can get to the Chiefs. CJ Stroud is now the winningest Houston Texans quarterback in postseason history. It took him 2 seasons to get 2 wins and claim that title, which, if we're being real, says more about the quarterbacks we've seen come and go in the 20-plus years of Texans football than it does about C.J. Stroud. Other quarterbacks with a playoff win for the Texans include the great T.J. Yates, Brock Osweiler, Matt Schaub, of course, and he who shall not be named but blew out his Achilles again because karma is real and God is good. Against the Chargers defense, who allowed the fewest touchdowns of any team in the National Football League during the regular season, C.J. Stroud was 22 for 33 for 282 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 90.7 QB rating. And he was running. Stroud was running. He has legs. It turns out 6 rushes for 42 yards, a long of 27. He had the longest running play of the game for the Texans. It was almost like now that we're in the playoffs and it really, really matters, he could finally let loose. It kind of felt like that way across the board, but with C.J. Stroud more than anybody else offensively, like this was the guy we've been missing. And he was a mess in the first quarter and the beginning of the second quarter when he threw his a pick. But something happened. I mean, he was missing badly, missed very badly on a couple few throws in the first quarter and at the beginning of the second half. And then it seemed like that third down where CJ botched the snap, he had to recover his own fumble, he scrambled out of the pocket and found Xavier Hutchinson downfield for a first down. Like it finally brought back and sparked that fire within him that we all saw last season and have been missing. Like he made several plays like that last season. It almost became like, not necessarily the part where he fumbled the snap, but these broken plays that seemed like we were dead in the water, and then CJ pulled a rabbit out of a hat, and he did that with Xavier Hutchinson, and that was when everything changed. Everything changed from that point on. It was like he finally regained his confidence, and I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, I think that first, 8 to 10 weeks of this season, where the offensive line was an absolute mess, and we had no pass protection. There was no pocket. CJ could not get comfortable. His timing got thrown off. It seemed like that broke him mentally. Like he didn't have the joy in him that you see CJ playing with all year his rookie season, that you saw him play with at Ohio State. Like he seemed like a completely different guy. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when really, if you were a Texans fan watching this game and you watched the whole first quarter and the beginning of the second quarter, you're like, we're screwed. We're doing the same shit we've done the past however many weeks it's been. Like, I don't know. Most of the second half of the season, and really most of the season, the regular season on the whole, we did not look like the team we expected. And there were points early on in the season where I questioned, like, are these guys even taking the regular season seriously, or is it because the AFC South is such a joke that they're just going to lock in when the playoffs come? And frankly, after this game, it seems like that was accurate. Like this was the team. This was the, sans a couple of receivers that we lost in Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. Like this is what we wanted. This is what we expected to see this season. And they finally played that way. And CJ is obviously the most important factor. When he is on, when he is locked in, when he is feeling the energy, this is a really good team. That just wasn't the case pretty much the entire regular season. So it was extremely concerning to see that same lackluster energy in the first quarter and at the beginning of the second quarter. And then that one play, man, that he took his eye off the snap, lost the football, has to roll out to the right, and then finds Hutchinson wide open 30 yards downfield. oh my God, that felt good to see. That was amazing. That drive started with just over 6 minutes left in the first half on the Chargers' 1 yard line after they executed an incredible punt. And I even tweeted, I was like, I could not be less excited to watch an offensive drive than I am about this one that's about to start on the literal 1 yard line for the Texans. And it turned into a 99-yard scoring play. We had 0 points at that point. 0 points on the board, starting at our own 1 in a possession that includes CJ botching a snap and having to perform a miracle, essentially. And somehow, some way, that incredible drive ends with the Texans taking a 7-6 lead with 58 seconds left in the half, which would have been enough just to feel good going into halftime right there, to finally have something in the way of momentum and have a lead in a game where it seemed like we had been thoroughly dominated. We certainly were in the first quarter, and the offense had nothing going. And then somehow we add a field goal before the half because we force another punt. Good clock management from D'Amico and the coaching staff. And CJ decides again that he has legs. That's when he ripped off the 27-yard run to get us into field goal range, completes one more pass, and Kaimi Fairbairn gets in there and boots it through, and suddenly we're up 10-6 at the half. And to the defense's credit as well, I think them holding the Chargers to 2 field goals in the first quarter and 0 points in the second quarter also lit a fire under CJ Stroud and the rest of the team. And like, that's when you watch really good football teams play, you see guys feed off each other. Really, all sports works the same way in basketball, works similarly in baseball as well. Even like, you need guys to step up and light a fire under your asses so that everybody can feel that energy and get in it together and play at their best. And like in the playoffs, in the postseason of any sport, you got to find another level, right? You got to literally leave it all on the field because this could be it. You lose, you go home. That's the way it works in the NFL. And the Texans easily could have laid down and died after that first quarter, after the beginning of that second quarter, when everything was going against them, minus the defense, of course, stepping up when it mattered most. So, yeah, I mean, you could just see the energy again, and the whole team was flying around, man, and it was, I was so stoked. I'm still so stoked. Like, I just watched the 15-minute, highlights of the game that the NFL put out, and oh my God, yeah. So speaking of the defense, Justin Herbert threw a league-low 3 interceptions in the regular season, just 3. To put it another way, in 504 regular season pass attempts, 504 regular season pass attempts, Justin Herbert threw 3 interceptions. So he was 501 and 3. That's how many interceptions he threw in the regular season. 3. He was picked off 4 times by the Houston Texans defense on Saturday night. That alone was, it's a testament to this defense, for one. It's a testament to how much pressure they put on him and how well the defensive line performed, how well the corners and the safeties performed. He threw more picks in that game than he did the other fucking 17 games in the whole season. That's crazy. That's crazy. And that is the difference on the scoreboard right there. CJ Stroud protecting the football much, much more effectively than Justin Herbert. But going into this game, Justin Herbert was one of these guys where it's like, people talk a lot about his arm talent, and he's never won anything yet, but like, this was his opportunity to sort of take the next step, and he did the opposite of that thanks to the Texans defense. 3 picks in the regular season, 4 in the wild card round of the playoffs. Eric Murray had a pick 6, which was the loudest I've heard NRG in a while. Derek Stingley Jr. had 2 picks to go with 4 solo tackles and 5 passes defensed and 1 forced fumble. Just an unbelievable game. Not a bad day for the first team All-Pro corner. I honestly think he might be the best cornerback in football at this point. Like, who is better than Derek Stingley Jr.? It's not Sauce. Not anymore. He is that guy. I think he is the best corner in football. So yeah, that first possession, really the whole first quarter, it looked like we might be dead in the water. Herbert was carving up the defense. We weren't doing a great job of stopping the run game yet. The only thing we did well in the first quarter, offensively or defensively, was red zone defense to hold them to 2 field goals in that first quarter. No points in the second quarter for the Chargers, which was a huge, huge turn in momentum. Will Anderson Jr. continues to be a monster. He had 1.5 sacks, a sack and a half, and just, I mean, the one sack, the one that was, completely credited to him, it was completely unblocked. Nobody touched him. Nobody even tried, which blew my friggin' mind, and he absolutely blew up Justin Herbert as a result. But fuck, yeah, he's so much fun to watch. What's the name of the dude on the other side of him? Danielle Hunter didn't really get anything going this game. I don't know what that was about necessarily, but having those two guys on the defensive end, in the defensive end position, enormous. Also, Mario Edwards had a sack and a half. D'Amico Autry had 1 sack as well to make it 4 total. The defensive line was beasting out there. I mean, it was a very impressive showing from them. Look, we've known we have a good defense. We've known this. The defense, for the most part, was consistent all season long. It was the thing that kept us in games. It's why we won so many games by 1 score or less. The defense was the thing we knew we could rely on. We needed to see the offense step up, and that was enormous. But to see the defense have one of their best games of the season when it mattered most, that's what you have to have. That's what your defense wins championships. That's what they say. You got to score points, but if you can't keep the other team from scoring, you're going to have a hard time out there. Eric Murray, what a game. 4 solo tackles, 3 assisted, 1 pass defensed, 1 interception for a touchdown, which we already talked about. That was chef's kiss. Kamari Lassiter had an interception as well. Have to touch on special teams quickly. Special teams coach Frank Ross going berserk on that blocked extra point that we returned for 2 was one of the best moments of the game. And they got an incredible shot of him that they showed in slow motion after the fact on the broadcast. So that was the 86-yard Ladd McConkey or whatever that fucking guy's name is. He's the only dude who did anything on the Chargers offensively. I think he had 220 receiving yards or some craziness. They had that 86-yard touchdown where it felt like if we got that stop, it was 3rd down, they're in their own red zone on the wrong side of the field. And it felt like if we got that stop, the game was over. They have the 86-yard touchdown play. A little bit of the wind comes out of the Texans' sails, and you can feel the energy dying in NRG Stadium. And then we partially block the punt, and special teams coach goes absolutely nuts. So that touchdown the Broncos scored as a result of the blocked field goal, extra point, not punt. The blocked extra point that we returned for 2 points caused it to only be a 4-point swing as a result, which was huge. And then you felt the energy return to the stadium. We also had a partially blocked punt by D'Angelo Ross. That's where I'm getting confused. Blocked extra point, fantastic. Return it for 2. Partially blocked punt by D'Angelo Ross at another point in the game. Special teams showed up, and Frank Ross was very, very excited about that. I didn't know who Frank Ross was before this game, frankly. I don't pay attention to our special teams coaching staff. I'm not that deep. But man, he was fired up. And that's one of the things about the Texans that's so fun to watch. A lot of these NFL coaches, they're very, low-key, low energy. Think Bill Belichick, right? He never really got fired up for his guys or danced or run around or jumped around on the sideline. It's boring. He's boring. We don't have that. D'Amico Ryans gets fucking lit out there, dude. He gets extremely excited when good things happen. He is running around. He is jumping around. He is firing up his guys and making sure he meets them at the sideline when they come off the field. Frank Ross, our special teams coach, who now I will never forget, clearly emotionally invested. And that's what you want. You got to make everybody feel like it really fucking matters to them. And especially when you're in the postseason and you have to beat good football teams, that can give you a little extra something that ends up mattering enormously on the scoreboard in the final, result of the game. So, yeah, the defense, I don't know how some of y'all, how long you've been Texans fans, but if you've been watching this shit since back in the day, right, with Bulls on Parade and J.J. Watt and Brian Cushing and all the OGs and D'Amico Ryans being one of them, defense is the thing that puts life into NRG Stadium. It's the thing that gets the crowd fired the fuck up. And that was the case pretty much from the second quarter on. This whole, the first quarter was oh God. And then everything, second, third, and fourth quarter was you could, every time the defense did something, whether it was a pick or a big sack or a big stop on 3rd down, or even special teams with the blocked extra point or the partially blocked punt, that's what gets people fired up, especially when we already have a lead. And huge props to the defense for giving us the energy we needed in a game where, like I said, in the first quarter, it was tough sledding out there. Tough sledding out there. To not score a point in the first quarter of an elimination wild card playoff game against a team that Rex Ryan called this a bye week. It was a bye week, and I love that the team acknowledged this. I love that Joe Mixon and D'Amico Ryans both acknowledged this post-game. It was clearly something they used as bulletin board material, and bulletin board material is one of the things it felt like this team was lacking during the regular season when they could not get the energy up. They did not look like they had any joy in their hearts as they were playing the game, and then now it's there, and this is when it matters, right? I will forget about all of the frustrations of the regular season if we continue to see them play the way they did next week. The way they did against the Chargers next week. Fuck the regular season. It won't matter. I will forget everything about that. I'll even forget that Bobby Slowick looked like he didn't know how to fucking call a play anymore. I'll forget all of that if they continue to play the way they did against the Chargers. So, considering the Texans fumbled and turned the ball over on the first play of their first offensive possession, like, this game really couldn't have started more poorly. Again, credit to the defense for stopping the Chargers twice in the red zone and forcing 2 field goals. But, like, Mechie, you got to hold on to that football, brother. You can get away with mistakes like that sometimes. You get lucky. Got away with them against the Chargers. But you cannot count on getting away with that fumble on the first play of the first possession of the game for the Texans, or the Joe Mixon fumble later in the game. You can't have that. You can't have that against the best. Got away with it against the Chargers. That's obviously one of the things they need to look to protect and change against the Chiefs on Saturday. So at some point, like, again, game starts off absolutely just atrocious. So you're just like, fuck, what are we even doing? And then at some point, after that CJ Stroud botched snap, recovery, scramble, first down conversion, and a 99-yard drive to score a touchdown before the end of the half, like, Bobby Slowick seemed to snap out of it as well. And maybe it's like the way that CJ and Bobby worked together. Something finally clicked there and looked like it did last season. And big piece of that, you have to feel like during the first quarter when we didn't score any points, you're going, okay, you can't find anything. Nothing's really working. Run game's not really getting you anywhere. Nobody's getting open in the passing game. At some point, you just have to throw the ball to Nico Collins, covered or not. At some point, you just got to get the ball to your best receiver, and Bobby Slowick finally started dialing it up for Nico Collins in a way that was extremely effective. There's just not that many guys that can cover him, man. He's incredibly strong. He's a big target. He's got great hands. He runs good routes, but you got to take some chance. It's like CJ's lost a little bit of his trust over the course of the regular season, and seeing his other 2 top 3 options receiving-wise go down, and Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, like, fucked with him, and the offensive line troubles that we already touched on, like, you just got to throw it at Nico. Just throw it at him. Look what he does when you do. He's unbelievable. Like, this is early in the season before Nico had his injury. He was the best receiver in the NFL for a stretch of weeks, statistically and otherwise. He was. People looked at me like I was crazy calling him the number 1 receiver in the league. I genuinely think he's a top 3 guy when he's healthy and the offense is catering to him. And I realize it's a struggle striking a balance between the passing and the running game, but, like, don't overcomplicate things. Throw Nico Collins the football. The strong majority of the time you do that, good shit is going to happen. Nico had 7 receptions on 8 targets for 122 yards and a long of 41. He was back to looking like Andre Johnson out there, like prime Andre Johnson. Not one, you're going to need more than one tackler most of the time with Nico. He's strong like Bull. Bull's on parade. So throw him the fucking ball. Big shout out to Hutchinson, Robert Woods, and Mechie, who are all just good enough. Like, that's what we need, man. Like, you don't have to do anything miraculous, but we need dudes to step up. Hutchinson getting open on that botched play for CJ is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. Mechie had a solid rest of the game after that opening drive, first play from the line of scrimmage fumble. Like, he didn't let that wreck his confidence. He stayed locked in. He was productive. That's what we need from these other 3 guys. Because I'm saying throw the ball to Nico, but, like, he can't do it all. You got to spread it out a little bit, right? You got to get the running game going. You got to hit some of these other receivers. You got to hit the tight ends, which they did well. Cade Stover had a decent game as well. But yeah, man, I was extremely impressed with the way Robert Woods and Mechie after that first play, and then Hutchinson carried themselves. We just need them to get 2-3 catches here and there, man, and that'll be enough. That'll be enough. Joe Mixon, in the second half in particular, enormous again. 25 rushes for 106 yards and a touchdown, one bad fumble on a weird play that I still, even just watching the highlight again, like it seemed like they thought he was going to throw it, like it was supposed to be some kind of trick play or something. I really don't know. But I think it was the first fumble for Joe in something crazy like 1,000 touches, if I remember correctly, like over 1,000 touches since he'd fumbled the football. And you could tell he was furious, and then he was locked in the rest of the game as a result. And like sometimes that's what you need, man. You need like a mistake or some shitty thing to happen to you, not just in sports but in life, to get you fucking fired up and motivated to get out there and give it your all. And so Joe Mixon, once again, it just stellar performance, and he has been so much fun to watch. And got to give a ton of credit again to Nick Caserio for making that trade happen and bringing Joe Mixon to the Texans, because again, I've said this 3 or 4 times this year, but like this is a completely different team without Joe Mixon. No disrespect to Dameon Pierce, but he's not Joe Mixon. He's not Joe Mixon. And Joe's still got it. He's got wheels, and he is tough to tackle, and he is tough in general. Like sometimes he gets fucking hit and he bounces back up. He is not a dude that strays away from contact. He lowers the shoulder. He wants to hit you the way you want to hit him. And over time, that wears the defense down. And you saw how effective it was in this game. First quarter, not really much in the run game. Second quarter, okay, getting a little better. Third quarter, he's fucking rolling dudes. Fourth quarter, he's stiff-arming guys through the turf. That's what Joe Mixon does. And if you can combine those elements, this was the thing that was so frustrating during the regular season. If you can combine the elements of C.J. Stroud and his talent and his ability to read the field and his arm strength with Nico Collins, who is a top 3 receiver in the NFL, and Joe Mixon, who is a top 5 running back in the NFL-ish, top 5-ish, get a few of these other receivers who have had to step up. I saw somebody on Twitter say that it's basically Nico Collins and 3 guys that are bang-bus cameramen. Like, look, things didn't go the way we hoped they would, receiving core-wise. Huge losses in Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. So that's what's going to matter the most in this matchup Saturday against Kansas City. Saturday at 3:30. Did anybody doubt that would be when we fucking played? The second we won the game, and well, actually, it was the second that I saw the result of the Buffalo game, and I was like, okay, so we got lucky here. We're avoiding the Ravens in the divisional round. I would much, 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 much rather play Kansas City, who has had a very similar season to the Texans in that they didn't score very many points. They're not the same level of flashy and offensively productive as they have been during this, dynasty that they've built. I think it's give them the respect they deserve. This has been a dynasty. They've won the last 2 Super Bowls. This is them going for a three-peat. Kelsey isn't who he used to be. He's getting up there in age. He's kind of lost a step. People it doesn't have anything to do with fucking Taylor Swift. He's just getting older. He's been doing this forever. One of the best to ever do it from the tight end position. Patrick Mahomes, there's no player in the league with more tape than Patrick Mahomes. So the defense should be able to properly prepare. He's extremely talented. If he somehow finds a way to beat the Texans and make another Super Bowl run, like he's undoubtedly one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. But the situation this season, the way the Chiefs are set up, the way we're set up, that's our best matchup, and it's not close. You didn't want to play the Bills. That is not something we look forward to doing, although you do have to hope the Bills beat the Ravens, because if we beat the Chiefs, if we find a way to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, you don't want to play the Ravens. You do not. We're just talking matchups. We don't match up well against the Ravens. You saw what happened earlier in the season. They are a fucking monster that we do not want to have to fight again. The Bills, we have a much more realistic chance of beating. But out of those teams picking which one we would want to play in the divisional round, it's the Chiefs, even on the road. It's the Chiefs in Kansas City. Because this gives us an opportunity to really matter, to really show our ass. 3:30 on Saturday, it's disrespect, but it is what it is. When you look at the other 3 matchups, it's like, okay, yeah, fine, whatever. This is our slot. If you want to get out of the 3:30 Saturday slot, beat the Chiefs on the road. Beat the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions on the road and I promise you, you will not be in the 3:30 slot of the wild card and divisional round come next season, come playoffs in 2026. It won't happen again, but you got to do something, or you're going to keep getting that Saturday 3:30 slot. Actually works out enormously for me because I got shit I got to do on Sunday. I was begging for our game to be on Saturday, whether it be in the afternoon or in the evening. So I'll take it, man. And we just played Saturday at 3:30, so it's consistent for the team. You played it Saturday on 3:30. You're going to play it Saturday on 3:30 again, right? I think every playoff game we've ever had has been Saturday at 3:30. But yeah, this is the preferred matchup against Kansas City. Is it going to be easy? Fuck no. You're on the road against the two-time defending Super Bowl champions. They have Patrick Mahomes, and they've got Andy Reid. Andy Reid is the most valuable thing about the Kansas City Chiefs. He's their most valuable player, and he's their fucking coach. Not to take anything away from Mahomes, but Andy Reid is inarguably one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL at this point, and that's the biggest deficit between us and them. Not disrespecting D'Amico Ryans, but he's a second-year head coach. He's a defensive-minded guy. He does not have the offensive savvy that Andy Reid has. And it's going to, if the pressure has ever been on Bobby Slowick, it's never been on him more than it's going to be on Saturday at 3:30. Because he's going up against a great. And if he wants to put himself back in this head coaching carousel conversation, Bobby Slowick, and get himself a massive chunk of millions of dollars, then he's got to go out there and beat Andy Reid. Otherwise, I don't think he's getting the kind of attention that he wanted or that he got last offseason, this next offseason. Because it was a rough regular season for Bobby. And I'm not even necessarily taking anything away from Bobby at this point. I think CJ and his mental situation, and the way everything unfolded just didn't go great. The guys could not get their chemistry together. CJ Stroud and Bobby Slowick working together. It just was not what we hoped it would be. So that's what we look at next. Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. And here's the real kicker. We have the chance. Nobody wants to see the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl again. Nobody, except Chiefs fans. We're all sick of it. It's the same fucking thing over and over and over. Nobody wants to watch this again. So we have a chance to be America's heroes. Stop the Chiefs dynasty in its tracks. They probably do a bit of a, soft rebuild if they lose to us at home in their first playoff game of the year because they had a bye. They're the 1 seed. We are the lowest remaining seed in the AFC, is why we are playing the Chiefs in Kansas City. We have a chance here to really show America and NFL fans around the globe that the Texans are a legitimate team, that CJ Stroud is him, that D'Amico Ryans is something special in a head coach, that Nick Caserio has built a legitimate contender in this roster, and that we have 2 more years of CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. on a rookie contract to continue taking a run at the Super Bowl. And I'm not trying to get ahead of my skis here. And I don't even like using that phrase because I've never been skiing. I just know that I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. But lucky break puts us in Kansas City so we avoid the Ravens in the divisional round of the playoffs. If we can find a way past the Chiefs, which I do believe is possible, we opened it like an 8-point underdog, which I would hammer if I was a betting man. That's not financial advice, but I'm just saying, and I am a betting man. I'm saying I'm going to hammer it. But 8 feels like a lot of points. All right? I have so much faith in our defense, and it's going to come down to if we play the way we did against the Chargers, we can beat the Chiefs. We can beat the Chiefs if we play the way we did against the Chargers. If the defense in particular plays the way they did against the Chargers, we can beat the Chiefs. They don't score that many points. The offense is not that high-powered. You do not have to fear Patrick Mahomes the way you have in years past. Their defense is stout, but they don't score that many fucking points on offense. So we can beat the Chiefs. I genuinely believe. I'm like irrationally overly confident at this point. I'm like a scale of 1 to 10. I'm like a 7.5. We can fucking beat the Chiefs. If we get lucky and the Bills take out the Ravens, which is very possible. The Bills are rolling, and this is Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. That's it. That's the matchup, and it's going to be a fun one to watch. Extremely fun one to watch, Buffalo and Baltimore. If we get lucky here and the Bills can beat the Ravens, because I hate our matchup against the Ravens. Again, don't think we match up well. Don't think there's a realistic chance that we beat them. But there's a realistic chance we could beat the Bills. You get past the Chiefs, suddenly you're in the AFC Championship. If the Bills beat the Ravens and we're playing the Bills, it's a chance. It's not a good chance, but there's a chance. And that's all we wanted. That's what I was bitching and moaning about the whole season. Like, it didn't feel like we were going to just give ourselves an opportunity. And now we have it. So you have to think they come out ready to capitalize on that. And who knows? You don't know. Any given Sunday or Saturday at 3:30. Any given Saturday at 3:30. That's the Texans slogan for the playoffs. Any given Saturday at 3:30. You never fucking know. And this could be a run. This could be a real run. Which I don't know that. I think I expected them to be in a position to make a legitimate Super Bowl contending run. At the very least, get to the AFC Championship before the season started. Then watching the regular season, pretty much lost all hope. That's why Rex Ryan called us a bye week against the Chargers. Because they didn't look like they wanted it. They didn't look like they were prepared for it. They didn't look like they were going to score enough points to do it. But now, different situation. And you got to think positive. There's a real chance here. So I hope they harness it. I hope the lights aren't too bright. I hope the pressure's not too much. But I think being in that 3:30 Saturday slot will help. And who knows, man? Who knows? We'll see what happens. But they did what they needed to do, took care of business during the wild card, take down the Chargers, and take them out in a way that, just like last year when we beat the Browns, right? It was a convincing victory that had people going, oh, shit, okay. Then you run into the Ravens, and it's like, oh, okay, we're not quite there yet. We're avoiding the Ravens. Different situation. A lot of, there's pressure, but it's also the kind of pressure that's you get the opportunity to take down a legend in Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the two-time Super Bowl defending champions. You get to keep them from continuing to try to have a three-peat, which I can't remember. Has nobody ever done that? Or it hasn't happened in God knows how many years. Brady never did it, if I remember correctly. But that should motivate you. That's the kind of pressure that feels good. Because it's like you're an underdog. You got nothing to lose. You play loose and free. And that's what they need to focus on this week, and I know they will. So, man, good things. Good things. Great things, man. I mean, for a season that was as frustrating as it was, a regular season that was as frustrating as it was, it felt so good to see them go out and play the way they did against the Chargers. And I'm so thankful. My God, did we need it? We needed it. We needed it bad, and we got it. That'll do it for today's show. Remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available on youtube.com/@bangingthecan, where if you are watching right now, I would very much appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment, support the show. That goes a long way to helping us continue to grow. If you're on the audio platforms, rate and review the show. Support our sponsors when we have them. This week we don't have any. Today's episode is brought to you by you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And on that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family. Follow us on social media @BangingTheCan. And when you see clips of our show come out a little bit later this week, starting probably tomorrow, share those, man. Throw them up on your Instagram story. Share them with your friends. Send them to your people. Retweet them on Twitter or whatever. That also helps us out a lot. Please and thank you. I'm Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @WRBolen. If you are a F1 fan, Bolen Media, my company, also makes a fantastic American-made F1 content show called Formula Bone, hosted by Jared J. Bone Borislow. Formula Bone is available wherever you get Banging the Can, youtube.com/@FormulaBone, @FormulaBone on social media, and also available on the podcast platforms. He'll be bringing you incredible F1 content all off season long. Looking forward to the new season of F1 in March. Also, check out my comedy, mental health, life show, The Ross Bolen Podcast. And if you are watching Silo Season 2 on Apple TV Plus, or you are going to watch Severance Season 2 on Apple TV Plus, tune into Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, hosted by me and one of my best friends of over 20 years now, Mr. Barrett Dudley, also born and raised in Houston, where every week we do a companion podcast breaking down whichever show we are currently watching, which right now is Silo Season 2, and starting next week will be Severance Season 2. Both solid shows. Severance is one of the best shows on TV. I could not more highly recommend it. I'll be back next week. See you on social media. See you in the comments section. Leave a comment. I'll respond. Love talking with you all in the comments if you're on YouTube. Spotify also has comments now. If you're listening on Spotify, by the way, you can leave a comment on there. And I'll be back after the Chiefs game. Fingers crossed. I feel good, man. I feel good. Fuck the bookies. Fuck Vegas. What do they know? What do they know? Until next time, H-Town, stay down.